Welcome to the Intentional Father Podcast, where us fathers parent our children, not by accident, but with intent. I'm your host, Aaron Stroman. Season 3, Episode 4, Speak Well or Do Not Speak at All. This idea of speaking well, I really want the application to be in context of your children's mother, but we're going to expand it a little bit from there. But speak well or don't speak at all. We're talking about being an intentional father, navigating through the waters of divorce. If you've gone through divorce or you're going through it, divorce sucks. It's not the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise, but it is heartbreaking as you're going through it. Oh man. And there's some sort of betrayal. Some sort of deep heart wound that's just wrong. It's painful, it's nasty, it's wrong. And it's going to be very easy to speak ill of your ex-wife, whom is also your children's mother. Do not speak ill of your children's mother in their presence ever. Speak well or don't speak at all. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, your children are half composed of their mother. It's like their mom and their dad makes them. They're a combination of mom and dad. And so they're going to identify themselves both with their mother and with their father. And the tendency or the temptation is to talk trash about mom so kids will like you better. One, that's very childish and immature. Don't do it. Two, that will destroy your child's own identity because they see mom as like, that's half of who I am. So if mom's a dirtbag and this horrible person, then I must be a dirtbag and horrible person. And even if you don't intend that meaning to come across, that's what's going to come across. So don't speak ill of your ex-wife, of your children's mother. Also, it's just a part of maintaining integrity. No one's ever completely innocent in a divorce situation, but there is a person who probably should own more of it than the other. Your kids don't need to know about that. They don't. So don't make it an issue. Don't speak ill of their mother. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And that's an okay stance to take. Just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be spoken to everyone. And your kids don't need to hear if there's a drama or junk in the past. They don't need to hear that about their mom. And if they certainly don't need to hear it from you. Okay? Honor their mother and be the man of integrity. Take the higher road. Even if mom's talking trash about you and kids may come back, don't stoop down to that level. Correct the record. Be the man of integrity. But you don't need to stoop to the level and start talking trash about the other spouse. I got divorced in Kansas, and the state of Kansas makes you take a parenting class on it teaches you about co-parenting and being a single parent and all this stuff. And it was actually a really good class. You know, they say things like that. You know, like don't speak ill of your ex. They also say, you know, like don't try to use your kids as spies. Don't use them to get information. And there's information your kids have from the time they spend it with their mother that you would like, that would be beneficial. They have the info. Don't try to dig it out of them. Don't ask them about it. I think that's really good advice. Anyways, you'll probably have to go through a class like that if you haven't already. Take it to heart. It's actually, I was a little suspicious of it being kind of a state-driven curriculum, but in Kansas, it was really good. I don't think there was anything they presented that I would disagree with. Now, it's been 7 years, so my memory may not serve me, correct me, but it seemed to be pretty good conventional wisdom. Don't speak ill of others. And here's how this really played out in my personal life. I'm not going to speak ill, but part of my situation, by the time I was divorced legally, there was already a baby on the way with my ex, and it wasn't my child. And kind of as a result of the divorce situation, my kids end up with a half sister. And eventually this half sister comes out of the womb, and so now my kids have a half sister, and I'm not the dad. So it's just kind of weird. It's a little awkward. My kids were young enough where I'm not sure they put everything together. And again, and to this day, I haven't put it together for them. I don't think they've really, done the math and kind of thought through it all. And that's good. I want to preserve their innocence through all of this. But there was a time when, shortly after this stepsister, or not stepsister, half sister was born, my kids would reference her as their sister. And I would correct them, say, that's not your sister, that's your half sister. And again, you can see how that was my own pain, my own wound manifesting itself in how I spoke about other people, how I corrected my children. Don't call her your sister, call her your half sister, because that's what she is. And technically, that's correct. Man, God convicted my heart of that real quick. It only took me saying that a couple times when God was like, Aaron, let's think about this and have a talk about it. And again, I don't want to talk trash, but this little girl didn't have a father. She had, even by the time she was born, basically been abandoned by her father. She'll never know her father. And then I'm looking at my daughter who's grown right up next to her, and it looked like the trajectory of their lives were going in different directions. And man, that broke my heart. And so I quit correcting my children when they called her their sister instead of their half sister. Shame on me. Okay. And I own that. And then when the time was appropriate, I made sure to open up my house and always invite her to join my kids in whatever they wanted to include her with. And I still do that to this day. Sometimes she comes over for dinner. Obviously it's also all at discretion of their mom and, her actual parents. But for a while I was not speaking well of her, even just in a correction of how she was labeled, sister to half sister. And I had to change that. And I think in a way that was damaging my own integrity and character with my kids, because that was not an example of unconditional love. That was not an example of high integrity, high character. That was not an example of emotional intelligence or just being secure as a person. And so I had to change that. And that's hard to do, but I promise you it's worth it. Guys, you're again, I don't know your situation, but if you held your integrity and your wife lost hers and that led to a divorce, your kids don't need to know about that from you. They'll put it together in due time. They don't need to hear about it from you. Don't dishonor their mother. Don't speak ill of their mother. It's just resist that temptation. It's kind of like what they say, holding on to a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Same thing with speaking ill of your kid's mother. When you speak ill of them, it's like you're wanting to poison them, but really you're poisoning yourself. And it's counterproductive. Doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help the situation. So don't do it. Don't do it. Be a man of integrity. Be an intentional father. God bless.